She just wanted a normal night to clear her head. But nothing is normal when you're hurt. Your friends are cheering you on, and suddenly the most intimidating boss in the company shows up like he's part of the plan. She tries to stay in control and fails with a boldness she definitely won't recognize on Monday. The photograph arrived at exactly 3:47 p.m. on a Friday afternoon, which Alison Ramsey would later reflect was the most inconvenient timing for a personal crisis. She had been in the middle of reviewing a particularly tedious merger contract when her phone buzzed with a text from her younger sister. "You need to see this. I'm so sorry." 3 photos followed in rapid succession. Alison's boyfriend of 6 months, ex-boyfriend as of approximately 30 seconds ago, had his tongue down another woman's throat outside a coffee shop downtown. The images were crystal clear, unfortunately. Julia had excellent photography skills when she wasn't using them to document her sister's romantic disasters. The thing was, Alison didn't love Trevor. She had suspected for weeks now that their relationship had the emotional depth of a parking ticket. But betrayal still burned, regardless of whether genuine affection had been involved. It was the principle of the matter, the disrespect, the audacity of the man to cheat when he couldn't even remember her coffee order after half a year together. "Alison?" Marina's voice cut through her spiral. Her colleague and best friend stood in the doorway of her office, eyebrows raised. "You look like someone just told you the cafeteria is out of chocolate croissants again." "Worse." Alison held up her phone. "Trevor's out of my life." Marina snatched the device, her eyes widening as she scrolled through the evidence. "Oh, that absolute jackass. Julia caught him?" When Alison nodded, Marina's expression shifted from sympathy to determination. "Right. We're going to the happy hour. No arguments. You're not spending Friday night crying over a man who probably thinks foreplay is asking if you want to split an appetizer." "Marina? Nope. The girls are meeting at O'Malley's at 6. You're coming. We're drinking tequila, talking trash about terrible men, and you're going to remember why you're a brilliant, gorgeous, intimidating lawyer who doesn't need that unemployed philosophy major anyway. If this story is touching your heart, show your support. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends. Every action helps us keep bringing you new stories full of emotion." Despite herself, Alison laughed. "He has a job." Barely. Marina was already typing on her phone, presumably alerting their work friends to the drama. An Instagram influencer who posts pictures of his morning smoothies doesn't count as gainful employment. "You're better off, trust me." Maybe she was right. Alison saved her document, grabbed her purse, and made a command decision. Why should she waste a perfectly good Friday night mourning a relationship that had been DOA since week 3? She deserved drinks, laughter, and the company of women who actually appreciated her. O'Malley's bar was crowded by the time they arrived, filled with the usual Friday evening mix of corporate professionals desperately seeking liberation from spreadsheets and quarterly reports. Their group had claimed a large booth in the corner, Marina plus 3 other women from the legal department, all ready to commence Operation Forget Trevor's cheating face. "To Alison!" Stephanie raised her margarita. "And to the trash taking itself out." They clinked glasses. The first drink went down smooth. The second one burned less. By the third, Alison felt the pleasant buzz of alcohol wrapping around her wounded pride like a warm, careless blanket. "You know what?" she announced, perhaps louder than necessary. "I didn't even like him that much. He never laughed at my jokes, and he thought The Godfather was boring. Boring." "Red flag," Marina agreed solemnly. "Massive red flag. I should have known when he said he didn't eat bread. Who doesn't eat bread? Sociopaths, that's who." The table erupted in laughter and agreement. Another round of tequila shots appeared, courtesy of Stephanie's corporate card. This was exactly what Alison needed. Solidarity, support, and sufficient alcohol to make Trevor's face blur into insignificance. That's when the atmosphere in the bar shifted subtly. Russell Thornton walked in. Even through her tequila-tinted vision, Alison registered the change. Conversations quieted for a heartbeat. Heads turned. The CEO of Thornton Global Enterprises commanded attention simply by existing in a space, and O'Malley's bar was no exception. He was tall, over 6 feet easily, with broad shoulders that filled out his dark grey suit jacket, in a way that suggested either excellent tailoring or divine intervention, possibly both. His hair was dark, swept back from a face that belonged on magazine covers, all sharp angles and strong lines. But it was his eyes that truly arrested attention, intense, intelligent, the kind of grey-blue that seemed to see straight through polite pretenses. "Oh my God," Marina whispered. "That's Russell Thornton, the Russell Thornton, our CEO." Alison blinked. She'd seen him before, of course. Company meetings, quarterly presentations, that one elevator ride where she'd pretended to be fascinated by her phone to avoid awkward small talk. But she'd never seen him like this, casual and relaxed, laughing at something one of his companions said. 3 other men accompanied him, all equally well-dressed, all radiating that particular confidence that came with corner offices and stock options. They surveyed the bar, looking for seating. "They're coming over here," Stephanie hissed. "Act natural, don't be weird." Everyone immediately became weird. Ricardo Chen, the CFO, reached their booth first. "Ladies, mind if we steal a couple chairs? Place is packed tonight." "Of course." Marina recovered fastest, her professional smile sliding into place. "Join us. We were just celebrating Alison's liberation from terrible life choices." Russell Thornton's gaze found Alison's face, and something flickered in those remarkable eyes. Amusement? Interest? The tequila made it hard to interpret. Liberation. His voice was deep, with a slight rasp that did unfortunate things to her already compromised judgment. Sounds like a story worth hearing. Before Alison could formulate a coherent response, her traitorous friends were rearranging seating, pulling tables together, and somehow, through what she suspected was Marina's subtle machinations, Russell Thornton ended up directly across from her. "So," he said, leaning back in his chair with the casual elegance of a man who'd never experienced an awkward moment in his life, "what are we drinking to forget?" The tequila, combined with the righteous anger still simmering under her skin, made Alison bold. "Cheating boyfriends. Apparently, fidelity is more of a suggestion than a commitment these days." His expression shifted, still amused but with an edge of something sharper. His loss, clearly. "Damn right," Marina interjected. The man had the emotional intelligence of a potato and the conversational skills of a mime. Russell's lips curved into a half-smile that should probably be classified as a lethal weapon. His eyes never left Alison's face. "Then you're better off. Life's too short for boring conversation." And just like that, the evening transformed from a therapeutic venting session into something else entirely. Something that felt dangerous and thrilling and absolutely inadvisable, given that this was her boss, the CEO of the entire damn company. But the tequila whispered that consequences were problems for sober Alison, and drunk Alison was feeling brave, reckless, and suddenly very interested in testing exactly how far that amused smile of his could be pushed. This, she would later realize, was the moment everything changed. The moment the trajectory of her carefully planned, professionally appropriate life veered wildly off course. The moment she stopped being boring, sensible Alison, who color-coded her calendar and never mixed business with pleasure. The moment she became the woman who would kiss Russell Thornton in a bar hallway and set off a chain reaction that would reshape both their lives. But that was still several drinks and one terrible decision away. 2 hours later, Alison had crossed the line from pleasantly buzzed to dangerously uninhibited. The distinction was important, though her tequila-soaked brain wasn't particularly interested in semantics. Russell Thornton was funny, devastatingly so. He matched her sarcasm with his own dry wit, turning their conversation into a verbal sparring match that left her breathless with laughter. When she made a particularly cutting observation about corporate politics, his eyes lit up with genuine appreciation. "You don't hold back, do you?" he asked, and it sounded like a compliment. "Life's too short for diplomatic bullshit," Alison replied, then immediately worried she'd been too crude. But he laughed, a real laugh, not the polite chuckle she was used to from Trevor. Marina caught her eye across the table, eyebrows raised in a silent question. Alison ignored her. This was harmless, just conversation, just 2 people who happened to work for the same company, enjoying drinks after a long week. Nothing inappropriate about that. Except for the way his gaze lingered on her face. The way his smile seemed meant specifically for her. The way every accidental brush of his arm against hers sent electricity racing through her nervous system. When he stood to head to the bathroom, Alison watched him go. Ricardo leaned over, grinning like he knew all the world's secrets. "He likes you," the CFO announced, not bothering to lower his voice. "He's being polite," Allison countered, but her heart hammered traitorously. "Russell doesn't do polite. He does efficient, effective, and occasionally terrifying. That—" Ricardo gestured toward where Russell had disappeared. "That's interested." Marina kicked her under the table. "Don't you dare," she mouthed. But the alcohol had given Allison a different perspective on consequences. Trevor had cheated. She'd wasted 6 months on a man who couldn't even be bothered to stay faithful. Why should she play it safe? Why should she be responsible, sensible Allison who never took risks? The decision crystallized with champagne clarity. She was done being boring. When Russell emerged from the bathroom, Allison was waiting in the hallway, leaning against the wall with what she hoped was casual confidence rather than drunk wobbling. His eyebrows rose. "Miss Ramsey, did you get lost looking for the ladies' room?" "No." She pushed off the wall, closing the distance between them. "I wanted to thank you." "For what?" "For reminding me that not all men are boring, bread-hating cheaters." His expression shifted, became more guarded. "Allison!" She kissed him. For a heartbeat, he froze. Then his hands came up to her waist, pulling her closer, and he kissed her back with an intensity that made her knees weak. His mouth was firm, demanding, tasting like whiskey and something darker. One hand slid up her back, fingers tangling in her hair as he angled her head for better access. She gasped against his lips, and he took advantage, deepening the kiss until the hallway spun, and the only solid thing in the universe was him. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against hers. His thumb traced her jawline, and his eyes, God, those eyes, burned with barely restrained desire. "Come home with me," she whispered. His jaw clenched. "You're drunk." "I'm just brave enough to ask for what I want." "Allison." Her name sounded like a prayer and a curse. "I would very much like to take you home, but not like this. Not when you've been drinking. Not when you might wake up tomorrow and regret it." The rejection stung even through the alcohol haze. "So you don't want—" "Oh, I want." His voice dropped to a rough whisper that sent shivers down her spine. "Trust me, I want. But I also want you to be sober enough to remember saying yes. I want you to choose this. Choose me, without liquid courage making the decision." She blinked at him, processing. "You're turning me down." "I'm being a gentleman. There's a difference." His smile was pained. "Ask me again when you're sober." The words tumbled out before she could stop them. "He cheated. My boyfriend. Ex-boyfriend. Trevor. I saw the pictures today. Him with someone else. It shouldn't hurt this much because I didn't even love him. But it does. It hurts my pride, you know. Makes me feel like I wasn't enough." Russell's expression softened. His hand cupped her face with unexpected tenderness. "Then he's an idiot. And you are more than enough. You're brilliant and sharp and funny as hell, and any man who doesn't see that doesn't deserve a second of your time." The kindness undid her. Tears pricked her eyes, which was mortifying. Here she was, drunk and crying in a bar hallway after throwing herself at her boss. This was officially her worst night ever. "Come on," Russell said gently. "Let's get you some water and a ride home." He guided her back to the table with a hand at the small of her back. Marina took one look at Allison's face and immediately shifted into protective friend mode, shooting Russell a suspicious glare. "She's fine," he assured. "Just needs water and probably food." "When's the last time you ate?" Allison tried to remember. "Lunch, maybe?" Russell sighed and flagged down a server, ordering water and French fries with the authoritative tone of a man accustomed to being obeyed. When the food arrived, he pushed the plate toward her. "Eat." "You're very bossy," she observed, but took a fry anyway. "It's literally in my job description." An hour later, sufficiently hydrated and carb-loaded, Allison felt slightly more human. Russell insisted on making sure she got home safely, which Marina grudgingly approved, after extracting a promise that he'd text when Allison was safely delivered. The Uber ride to her apartment was quiet. Russell sat on the opposite side of the back seat, maintaining a respectful distance that somehow felt worse than if he'd sat closer. When they arrived, he walked her to her door. "Thank you," she mumbled, fumbling with her keys. "For being decent, for the food, for not taking advantage." "That's a pretty low bar for human behavior," he said. but his tone was gentle. "Get some sleep, drink lots of water, take aspirin before bed." She nodded. Then, because the alcohol still had some say in her decision-making, asked, "Will this be weird on Monday?" His smile was enigmatic. "Probably, but I have a feeling you can handle weird." He waited until she was inside, door locked, before leaving. Through the peephole, Alison watched him walk away, hands in his pockets, and wondered what exactly she'd just set in motion. Sunday was devoted entirely to hangover management and existential dread. Julia called 6 times, demanding details about the CEO situation, because apparently Marina had already spread the news. Alison denied everything, which was technically accurate since nothing had actually happened beyond one ill-advised kiss. One mind-blowing, world-tilting, never-to-be-repeated kiss. By Sunday evening, the panic had fully set in. She'd kissed her boss, the CEO of the company, the man who could fire her with a single phone call. What had she been thinking? The answer, of course, was that she hadn't been thinking at all. Monday morning arrived with the inevitability of a root canal. Alison spent 45 minutes selecting an outfit that screamed professional and definitely didn't kiss you in a bar hallway. She settled on a charcoal grey pantsuit and minimal makeup, pulling her honey-brown hair into a severe bun that would have made her grandmother proud. The office felt like walking into enemy territory. Every conversation seemed to pause as she passed. Were people staring? Did they know? Had someone seen them? Marina materialized at her desk before Alison had even logged into her computer. "Spill. Everything. Now. There's nothing to tell. You disappeared into a hallway with Russell Thornton and came back looking thoroughly kissed. That's definitely something." "We just talked," Alison lied. "He was being nice about the Trevor thing." Marina's eyes narrowed. "You're a terrible liar. Your left eye twitches when you're not telling the truth." "It does not." Alison caught herself. "Look, nothing happened. Can we please drop it?" "For now," Marina conceded, "but this conversation isn't over." The morning passed in agonizing suspense. Every time her office phone rang, Alison's heart jumped. Every time footsteps passed her door, she braced for Russell to appear with HR paperwork or a termination notice. By lunch, she'd convinced herself that maybe, just maybe, they could both pretend Friday night had never happened. They were adults, professionals. They could move past one tequila-fueled mistake. Then her email pinged. From Russell Thornton to Alison Ramsey. Subject, meeting request my office, 2 p.m., come alone. Alison's stomach dropped somewhere in the vicinity of her shoes. This was it. She was getting fired, or transferred, or subjected to the most awkward conversation in the history of workplace interactions. She spent the next 2 hours mentally preparing her resume and cursing tequila's very existence. At 1:58 p.m., she stood outside Russell Thornton's executive suite, palms sweating, heart hammering. His secretary, Mrs. Celia Morrison, a formidable woman in her late 50s who'd been with the company for 2 decades, looked up with a knowing smile that made Alison's paranoia spike. "Go right in, dear. He's expecting you." The office was enormous, all dark wood and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Russell stood with his back to the door, hands in his pockets, staring out at the skyline. "Close the door, please." Alison obeyed, her mouth dry. "Mr. Thornton, about Friday." He turned and there was that half-smile again. "How's your head?" Your hangover. I hope you followed my advice about the aspirin." "I did. Thank you." She clasped her hands together to stop them from shaking. "Look, I want to apologize for my behavior. It was completely inappropriate and unprofessional, and it will never happen again. If you want my resignation." "Why would I want your resignation?" "Because Friday was..." "A kiss," he supplied, moving closer. "An admittedly excellent kiss, but just a kiss, between 2 adults, after work hours, off company property. You're my boss. Technically, I'm everyone's boss. It's a very lonely position." The amusement in his eyes made her want to simultaneously hit him and kiss him again. "Relax, Alison. You're not fired. You're not in trouble. In fact, I have a proposition for you." That sounded ominous. "What kind of proposition?" "A professional one." He perched on the edge of his desk, studying her. "I need a lead attorney for a confidential acquisition. Someone smart, discreet, and capable of handling complex negotiations. Your name keeps coming up." Relief flooded through her. This was about work, just work. I'm interested. Good, because you'd be working directly with me. Long hours, close quarters. Lots of late nights in the office? Something in his tone made her look up sharply. His expression was perfectly professional, but his eyes... Is this about Friday? She asked bluntly. This is about business, he replied smoothly. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't looking forward to working with someone who isn't afraid to challenge me. He paused. And for what it's worth, that kiss was worth remembering. So when you're sober and ready to try again, you know where to find me. Then he smiled, that devastating, dangerous smile, and Alison realized with perfect clarity that she was in serious, serious trouble. The confidential acquisition turned out to be a pharmaceutical merger worth $200 million. Alison found herself spending 12-hour days reviewing contracts, negotiating clauses, and trying desperately to ignore the fact that Russell Thornton smelled incredible. It was ridiculous. She was a professional, a lawyer with 7 years of experience, and a reputation for being unflappable. Yet here she was, distracted by the scent of his cologne every time he leaned over her shoulder to review documents. This clause needs revision, he said, his breath warm against her ear. The liability terms are too vague. Alison's brain short-circuited momentarily. Right, yes, liability. I'll fix it. He straightened, and she caught the hint of a smile playing at his lips. The man knew exactly what he was doing to her, the smug bastard. Marina cornered her in the break room later that afternoon. So, how's working with Mr. Tall, dark, and dangerous? Professional, Alison replied, pouring coffee with more force than necessary. Professional. Marina's tone dripped disbelief. That's why you've been walking around looking like someone stuck you in a microwave? All flushed and flustered? It's warm in his office. It's November and the building is air-conditioned. Before Alison could craft a better lie, Stephanie appeared, eyes wide with excitement. Did you guys hear? There's a company-wide gala next month. Formal attire, open bar, and they're doing some kind of charity auction. Marina perked up immediately. What kind of auction? Experiences, I think. Like dinner with executives, golf lessons, that sort of thing. Russell chose that moment to enter the break room. His presence transformed the space instantly. Everyone stood a little straighter, spoke a little quieter. He nodded at the assembled employees, grabbed a bottle of water, and left without a word. He's intense, Stephanie murmured after he'd gone. He's hot, Marina corrected. There's a difference. Alison said nothing, but her treacherous mind replayed the kiss in the hallway, the way his hands had felt in her hair, the rough edge to his voice when he'd said he wanted her. This was going to be a very long project. Russell's perspective. Russell Thornton was not a man who lost control. He'd built an empire through discipline, strategy, and an almost pathological need for order. Women came and went, elegant, sophisticated, appropriate women who understood the rules of engagement and never demanded more than he was willing to give. Then Alison Ramsey kissed him in a bar hallway and shattered his carefully constructed equilibrium. He couldn't stop thinking about her, the way she challenged him in meetings, sharp and fearless, the way she bit her lower lip when concentrating on contracts, the way her eyes flashed with indignation when someone tried to dismiss her opinion. Ricardo noticed, of course. His best friend had the observational skills of a particularly nosy detective. "You're staring at her again," Ricardo commented during a break in their acquisition review meeting. "I'm reviewing her work," Russell countered smoothly. "Her work is on the screen. She's 3 feet to your left." Russell shot him a warning look. Ricardo grinned unrepentantly. "Just saying, boss, you've got it bad. Haven't seen you this worked up over a woman since... Actually, I've never seen you this worked up over a woman. It's kind of hilarious. I don't have anything." "Right. That's why you personally selected her for this project, despite having 6 other equally qualified attorneys available. That's why you've rescheduled 3 meetings to accommodate her schedule. That's why..." "Enough." Russell's tone could have frozen nitrogen. Ricardo held up his hands in surrender, but his smile remained. "For what it's worth? She seems different. Good different. The kind of different that might make you slightly less of a workaholic robot." Russell didn't dignify that with a response. But later, alone in his office, he allowed himself to acknowledge the truth. Alison Ramsey had gotten under his skin in a way no woman ever had. She made him laugh, Made him want to work late just for an excuse to be near her. Made him consider breaking his own rules about workplace relationships. The acquisition project would take at least 2 more months. 2 months of close proximity, late nights, and increasing temptation. 2 months to either get her out of his system or accept that he was completely, irrevocably screwed. Based on how his chest tightened every time she smiled, Russell suspected it was the latter. He was 38 years old, a self-made CEO, and successfully navigating billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat. Surely he could handle one brilliant, beautiful, maddeningly distracting attorney. The universe, Russell would soon discover, had a wicked sense of humor about such assumptions. The elevator incident happened 3 weeks into the project. Allison had been working late, again, when the building's ancient elevator system decided to stage a rebellion. One moment she was ascending to the executive floor with a stack of revised contracts, the next the lights flickered and the car jerked to a complete stop between floors. "No, no, no!" She jabbed the emergency button repeatedly. "Come on, you mechanical piece of—" The emergency speaker crackled. "Miss Ramsey? It's Russell. Are you all right?" Of course he was still in the building. Of course he'd been monitoring the elevator system malfunction. Of course the universe would trap her in a metal box while speaking to the man who'd been haunting her dreams for 3 weeks. "I'm fine," she called back, "just mildly claustrophobic and questioning my life choices. Maintenance is on their way. Should be about 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Alone in an elevator. With nothing but her thoughts and the increasingly problematic awareness that Russell Thornton's voice did things to her nervous system that should probably require a prescription. "Want some company while you wait?" His voice came through again. "I'm stuck here anyway." "Company how? Are you going to climb through the ceiling like an action hero?" His laugh echoed through the speaker, rich and warm. "I was thinking more along the lines of conversation, unless you'd prefer awkward silence." "Conversation is fine," Allison conceded, settling onto the floor. Might as well be comfortable during her imprisonment. They talked. About everything and nothing. Favorite books, worst movies, childhood embarrassments. He admitted to once giving a presentation with his fly unzipped for 30 minutes. She confessed to calling a judge Your Majesty instead of Your Honor during her first trial. "That's mortifying," Russell said, but she could hear the smile in his voice. "I'm aware. He still brings it up at legal conferences." "The judge or your mortification?" "Both." The conversation flowed easily, naturally, in a way that made Allison forget they were supposed to maintain professional boundaries. When Russell asked about Trevor, she found herself giving an honest answer. "I think I stayed with him because it was easy. Safe. He never challenged me or made me feel anything too intensely." Which sounds pathetic when I say it out loud. "It sounds human," Russell replied quietly. "We all settle sometimes. Choose comfort over passion because it's less risky." "Do you? Settle?" "I haven't had a serious relationship in 5 years, so I suppose I've been settling for nothing at all." The admission hung in the air between them, intimate despite the physical separation. Allison's heart hammered against her ribs. "Why not?" she asked. "Because I'm married to my work. Because building this company consumed every spare moment. Because—" He paused. "Because no one ever made me want to make time until recently." The elevator lurched suddenly, lights flickering back to life. Machinery hummed as the car began ascending. Allison scrambled to her feet, pulse racing, wondering if he meant. The doors opened. Russell stood there, leaning against the opposite wall, hands in his pockets. His tie was loosened, top button undone, hair slightly mussed like he'd been running his hands through it. He looked unfairly attractive and entirely too knowing. "Until recently?" Allison echoed, unable to help herself. He pushed off the wall, closing the distance between them. His eyes held hers with an intensity that made breathing difficult. "Until a certain brilliant attorney kissed me in a bar hallway and made me reconsider my priorities." That was the tequila talking. Was it? He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The touch was gentle but electric. "Because I'm fairly certain tequila doesn't make people more honest, just braver about expressing what's already there." Allison swallowed hard. "This is a terrible idea." "Probably. We work together." "We do. I could lose my job." "Not while I'm CEO, you won't." "Russell, ask me again," he murmured. "What you asked me that night, Ask me sober. Her breath caught. She knew what he wanted to hear, knew crossing this line would complicate everything. But standing there, watching the way he looked at her like she was the only woman in the world, Alison discovered she was tired of being safe. "Come home with me," she whispered. His smile was slow, devastating. "Now there's an offer I can accept." Then the moment shattered. Mrs. Morrison appeared around the corner, tablet in hand, expression professionally neutral. "Mr. Thornton, your 9 o'clock tomorrow has been moved to 8. Shall I arrange for coffee?" Russell stepped back smoothly, expression shifting to CEO mode. "Yes, thank you, Celia." The older woman's eyes twinkled with barely suppressed amusement as she left. Alison wanted to sink through the floor. Russell's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, jaw tightening. "Emergency meeting. Tokyo office. I have to take this." "Of course." Professional. They could do professional. He started to leave, then turned back. "Alison?" "Yes?" "We're not done with this conversation." It wasn't a question. Her heart somersaulted. "No, we're not." He smiled again, that dangerous smile, and disappeared into his office. Alison stood alone in the hallway, clutching her contracts, wondering how exactly she'd gone from sworn-off relationships to propositioning her boss in the span of 3 weeks. Marina was never going to let her live this down. Julia called at 7 in the morning, which meant trouble. "Tell me everything," her sister demanded without preamble. "Marina says you're working late nights with hot CEO. Are you sleeping with him? Please say yes. My life is boring and I need to live vicariously through your corporate romance." "I'm not sleeping with him," Alison grumbled, fumbling for her coffee maker. "We're working. That's literally it." "Boring? You kissed him 3 weeks ago and nothing. What kind of romance novel is this?" "The realistic kind where people have jobs and consequences exist." Julia made a disgusted sound. "Consequences are for people without chemistry. Marina sent me a photo from the office holiday party planning meeting. He was looking at you like you were dessert." "Marina needs a hobby that isn't my love life. Marina is my hero. Now listen, I'm staging an intervention. You're coming to my apartment Friday night. I'm teaching you how to flirt like you mean it." "I know how to flirt." "No, you know how to be professionally cordial. There's a difference. Friday, 7 p.m. Don't make me come to your office." She hung up before Alison could protest. The week continued its pattern of torture disguised as productivity. Alison and Russell spent hours together reviewing contracts, their conversations oscillating between sharp professional exchanges and moments of devastating personal connection. On Tuesday, they debated the ethics of hostile takeovers over Thai food. He argued for strategic necessity. She countered with corporate responsibility. Neither won. But Russell looked at her with such open admiration that she forgot her next point entirely. On Wednesday, they worked past midnight. Russell ordered pizza, and somehow they ended up on his office floor, surrounded by documents, sharing childhood stories. He'd grown up working class, built everything from nothing. She'd been the scholarship kid, always proving herself. They had more in common than she'd expected. On Thursday, Ricardo staged what he later called an intervention for the terminally stupid. "You're both idiots," he announced, walking into Russell's office, where Alison was reviewing contracts. "The entire building can see the tension. Just kiss already and put us all out of our misery." Russell's expression could have frozen lava. "Ricardo, don't Ricardo me. I've known you 15 years. You've never looked at a woman the way you look at her. And Alison," he turned to her, "you blush every time he says your name. It's adorable and also painful to watch." Alison felt her face flame. "I do not—" "You're doing it right now." Ricardo grinned. "Look, I'm not saying jump each other in the conference room. I'm saying stop pretending you're just colleagues when you're clearly—" "Out," Russell growled. "Now." Ricardo left, still laughing. The silence that followed was excruciating. Alison stared at her laptop screen, seeing nothing. Russell cleared his throat. "For what it's worth," he said quietly, "you do blush when I say your name. It's one of my favorite things." Her head snapped up. He was watching her with that half-smile, the one that made her want to throw professionalism out the window. "You're not helping," she managed. "I'm not trying to help. I'm trying to be honest." He stood, moving around the desk, until he was close enough that she could smell his cologne. "We need to talk about this, about us." There is no us. There's a professional relationship and some chemistry. Some chemistry. His laugh was low, dangerous. Alison, there are nuclear reactors with less volatile chemistry than what's between us. She stood, intending to create distance. Instead, she ended up closer, trapped between him and the desk. This is a bad idea. You've mentioned that before. It bears repeating. His hand came up, knuckles brushing her cheek. What if I don't care? What if I'm tired of pretending I don't think about you constantly? That I don't want to kiss you again properly this time, without alcohol or interruptions? Her breath caught. Russell. His phone rang. They both stared at it like it had personally betrayed them. Ignore it, she whispered. He smiled, pressed one quick kiss to her forehead, which somehow felt more intimate than the bar hallway kiss, and answered. Thornton. His expression shifted to business mode. Yes. I'll be right there. He hung up, looking genuinely regretful. Board meeting, emergency, I have to go. Of course. At the door, he paused. Alison, we're having this conversation, soon, and next time, I'm turning my phone off. After he left, Alison sat down heavily, heart racing. Marina appeared moments later, somehow having materialized from thin air. So, her friend said conversationally, when's the wedding? Alison threw a stress ball at her head. Marina dodged, laughing. You're so gone for him. Shut up. Gone. Completely. Utterly. Hopelessly. I'm billing you for my therapy costs. Worth it, Marina sang, disappearing before Alison could find something heavier to throw. Alone in the office, surrounded by contracts and the lingering scent of Russell's cologne, Alison admitted the truth. Marina was absolutely right. She was completely, utterly, hopelessly gone, and she had no idea what to do about it. Friday evening found Alison at Julia's apartment, being subjected to what her sister called Operation Get Your Man. You're overthinking this, Julia declared, sorting through Alison's closet with the critical eye of a fashion executioner. He's clearly into you, you're clearly into him. The problem is you're both acting like you're negotiating a peace treaty instead of starting a relationship. It's complicated. It's only complicated because you're making it complicated. Julia held up a dress. This one. Wear this to the gala. The dress was emerald green, elegant but not overtly sexy. Alison had bought it months ago for an event she'd never attended. The gala is still 2 weeks away. Exactly, which gives you 2 weeks to stop being a coward. Julia's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, grinned wickedly. Marina just sent me an update. Apparently, Russell asked her which color you prefer for flowers. Under the guise of thanking you for your work on the acquisition, Alison's heart stuttered. He did not. He absolutely did. She told him purple, which is your favorite, so now he knows, and you're going to get flowers, and then you're going to stop being ridiculous and admit you're crazy about him. You're all conspiring against me. We're conspiring for you. There's a difference. First moi. The Monday morning arrived with an enormous bouquet of purple tulips on Alison's desk. The card read simply, "For excellent work, A.R." Marina appeared before Alison had finished reading it. Purple tulips, her friend announced. Do you know what purple tulips mean? They're flowers, Marina. They don't mean anything. Royalty, elegance. Also, I'm completely smitten with you, but too emotionally constipated to say it directly. Marina leaned against the doorframe. He asked me your favorite color. Tried to make it casual, but the man is about as subtle as a brick through a window. Before Alison could respond, Mrs. Morrison appeared, looking far too pleased with herself. Miss Ramsey, Mr. Thornton would like to see you, something about the auction for the gala. Alison's stomach dropped. The gala. The charity auction. She'd completely forgotten she'd agreed to participate. In Russell's office, she found him standing by the window, holding what appeared to be an auction catalogue. There's been a situation, he said without preamble. What kind of situation? He turned, and his expression was carefully neutral. Too neutral. You're listed in the auction catalogue. Dinner with you is up for bidding. What? I never agreed to... She stopped. Mrs. Morrison. She handles all the auction submissions, claims she thought you'd be interested in supporting the charity. His jaw was tight. The problem is I can't remove you without causing questions. So I'm being auctioned off. Technically, dinner with you is being auctioned. There's a difference. Is there? She studied him. Why do you look like you want to punch something? Because several board members have already expressed interest in bidding. His tone was arctic. Including Marcus Reynolds from accounting, who's been asking about you for weeks. Something warm unfurled in Alison's chest. Are you jealous? Jealous implies I have a claim which I don't. Yet. He set down the catalogue. But yes, the thought of another man taking you to dinner makes me want to do very unprofessional things. Like what? Like bidding myself. He moved closer. Like winning. Like making it very clear to everyone in this building that you're not available. I'm not available? Are you? The question hung between them, weighted with meaning. Alison's pulse raced. That depends on who's asking. I'm asking. They stood inches apart, the air thick with tension. Russell's hand came up, almost touching her face, then dropped. This is killing me, he admitted quietly. Being this close and maintaining professionalism, pretending I don't want to kiss you every time you walk into a room. Then stop pretending. Alison, the door burst open. Ricardo stood there looking harried. We've got a problem. The Tokyo deal is falling apart. Conference call in 5 minutes. Russell closed his eyes briefly, jaw clenched. Of course it is. Sorry, man, also... Ricardo glanced at Alison, grinned. Nice flowers. Very subtle. After they left, Alison sat in Russell's office, surrounded by the scent of purple tulips and possibility. Her phone buzzed. Russell, I'm bidding, just so you know. Alison, that's inappropriate. Russell, so was kissing me in a bar hallway. Didn't stop you then. Alison, I was drunk. Russell, and now, what's your excuse? She stared at the message, heart hammering. Finally typed, temporary insanity. Russell, good. I prefer you insane. Alison laughed despite herself, then noticed Marina standing in the doorway watching with open delight. Don't, Alison warned. I'm not saying anything, except that you're smiling at your phone like a teenager, and it's adorable. I hate you. No, you don't. You love me, just like you're falling for him. Marina's expression softened. It's okay to be happy, Ali, even if it's complicated. After she left, Alison looked at the purple tulips and admitted what she'd been avoiding for weeks. Marina was right. She was falling. Hard. Fast. Completely. And for once in her carefully planned life, she wasn't sure she wanted to stop. The gala arrived with all the fanfare of a royal wedding. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers, designer gowns, and enough champagne to float a small yacht. Alison smoothed down her emerald dress nervously, grateful Julia had bullied her into wearing it. You look stunning, Marina whispered, appearing at her elbow. Russell hasn't stopped staring since you walked in. He's probably making sure I don't embarrass the company. Honey, that man is looking at you like you're the only woman in the room, which, considering there are at least 50 gorgeous women here, is saying something. Across the ballroom, Russell stood with a group of executives, looking unfairly attractive in a black tuxedo. His eyes found hers, held for a beat too long, then away. The corner of his mouth tipped up in that half-smile that made her knees weak. She was in so much trouble. The auction started after dinner. Various experiences were offered. Golf with the CFO, a wine-tasting tour, sailing lessons. The bidding was enthusiastic, but civilized. Then they announced dinner with Alison Ramsey. Our lovely attorney has generously offered an evening of fine dining and conversation, the auctioneer announced. Shall we start at 500? 1,000, called Marcus Reynolds from accounting, the same man Russell had mentioned earlier. Alison's face burned. This was mortifying. 1,500, another voice joined. She risked a glance at Russell. His expression was stone, but his jaw was clenched so tight she worried about his dental work. 2,000, Marcus countered, grinning at her. That's when she noticed it. Russell's hands had curled into fists at his sides. Ricardo stood next to him, looking torn between amusement and concern. 5,000, a new bidder entered. The room buzzed with interest. This was significantly higher than previous auction items. Marcus frowned. 7,000. Russell's entire body had gone rigid. The tension radiated off him in waves. When he shifted his weight, Ricardo put a warning hand on his shoulder. 10,000, the previous bidder continued. The room erupted in murmurs. 10,000 for a dinner was excessive, even for charity. Marcus hesitated, then 12,000. That's when Russell snapped. $100,000. His voice cut through the ballroom like a blade. The room fell absolutely silent. Everyone turned to stare. The auctioneer's mouth fell open. Marcus looked like he'd been slapped. Russell's expression was murderous. His eyes were locked on Marcus with such intensity that the man actually took a step back. "Going once," the auctioneer managed weakly. "Twice." He glanced around hopefully, but no one was stupid enough to outbid the CEO, who looked ready to commit violence. "Sold to Mr. Thornton for $100,000. The applause was hesitant, confused. People leaned together, whispering urgently. Marina grabbed Allison's arm. Holy hell! Did that just happen? Allison couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Russell had just paid an astronomical sum for dinner with her, and judging by the murderous expression on his face during the bidding, it hadn't been about charity. Mrs. Morrison materialized beside her, eyes twinkling. "I believe Mr. Thornton would like to schedule that dinner at your earliest convenience, dear." To Russell's perspective. Russell knew he'd screwed up the moment the words left his mouth. $100,000 for a dinner that should have cost $5,000, maybe $10,000 at most for charity. But watching Marcus Reynolds bid on Allison, watching that smug accountant grin at her like he'd already won, something primal and possessive had taken over. The same thing that made him want to physically remove any man who looked at her too long. The same thing that made him spend sleepless nights thinking about kissing her again. "Subtle," Ricardo murmured. "Really subtle, man. I'm sure no one noticed the homicidal rage." "Shut up. You looked like you wanted to kill him. Actually kill him. Over a dinner auction." "I said shut up," Ricardo grinned. "You've got it so bad. This is the best thing that's happened to me all year." Russell didn't dignify that with a response. Across the room, Allison stood frozen, eyes wide, her expression unreadable. Had he just ruined everything? Made her uncomfortable? Exposed feelings he'd been desperately trying to keep professional? His phone buzzed. "Allison." That was the most ridiculous thing I've ever witnessed. His heart sank. Then another message. "Allison. Also possibly the hottest. You looked like you wanted to murder him." Russell. "I did want to murder him." Allison. "Over a dinner auction?" Russell. "Over the thought of him spending an evening with you when I can barely get 5 uninterrupted minutes. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally. Allison. So when's this dinner happening?" Russell. "Tomorrow night. I'll pick you up at 7. Allison. "Bossy." Russell. "You have no idea." He pocketed his phone, allowing himself a small smile. Worth it. Every penny, every confused whisper, every knowing look from Ricardo, worth it to see Allison looking at him like that. The rest of the gala passed in a blur of handshakes and small talk. Russell endured precisely 30 minutes before making his excuses and heading for the exit. He found Allison in the hallway talking with Julia. Her sister saw him first, eyes widening with delight. "Oh, I'll just leave you to—" "Yeah." She scurried off, phone already out, presumably to text Marina. Russell and Allison stood alone in the elegant corridor, the sounds of the gala muffled behind closed doors. "Hi," she said. "Hi." "Brilliant conversation, Thornton. So, $100,000. It's for charity. It's insane." "Probably." He stepped closer. "But I meant what I said. I don't want anyone else having dinner with you. I want that time. I want all of it, if I'm being honest." She smiled, soft and genuine. "You're going to cause such a scandal. Let them talk." He reached out, brushed his thumb across her cheek. "All I care about is you." Her breath hitched. "Russell, tomorrow, 7 p.m., wear this dress again. I didn't get to appreciate it properly." Demanding. "Always." He pressed a kiss to her forehead, lingering. "Sleep well, Allison." As he walked away, he heard her whisper, "Not likely." Neither would he. Not when tomorrow finally promised the evening they'd been circling around for weeks. Russell arrived at 7 precisely, looking devastating in dark slacks and a navy sweater that did remarkable things for his eyes. He held a single purple tulip. "Couldn't resist," he said with that half-smile. The restaurant was 40 minutes outside the city, perched on cliffs overlooking the ocean. Candlelight flickered across white tablecloths. Waves crashed against rocks below. It was absurdly romantic, and Allison's heart hammered with nervous anticipation. "This is beautiful," she said, as they were seated at a private table by the window. "I wanted somewhere we wouldn't run into anyone from the office." His eyes held hers. "Somewhere we could actually talk without interruptions." They ordered wine, and conversation flowed as easily as it had in the elevator in his office during all those late nights working. But this time felt different, intentional, like they'd both decided to stop pretending this was anything other than what it was. "Tell me something you've never told anyone," Russell said, swirling his wine. "That's a dangerous question." "I'm feeling dangerous tonight," Allison considered. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm enough, smart enough, interesting enough. Trevor cheating just confirmed what I already suspected, that I'm fundamentally lacking something." His expression shifted, became fierce. "You're not lacking anything. You're brilliant and funny and so damn beautiful, it physically hurts to look at you sometimes. Trevor was an idiot who didn't deserve you. Neither does anyone else who can't see how extraordinary you are. Including you." The words slipped out before she could stop them. "Especially me." He reached across the table, took her hand. His thumb traced circles on her palm. "I'm a workaholic with commitment issues and a tendency to prioritize business over everything else. You deserve someone who'll put you first. Who'll come home at reasonable hours and remember anniversaries and—" "Russell." "Yeah? Shut up and tell me something you've never told anyone." He laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "Fair enough." His thumb continued its maddening path across her skin. "I'm terrified of this, of you, of how much I want this to work when I have no idea how to make it work. I built an empire but can't figure out how to date someone without screwing it up." "We could screw it up together," Allison offered. "Make it a team effort." "I like that plan." Dinner arrived. Fresh fish, roasted vegetables, crusty bread that Trevor would have rejected on sight. They talked about everything: childhood dreams, favorite books, places they wanted to visit. Russell admitted he'd never been to Paris despite multiple business trips. Allison confessed she couldn't cook without burning something. "I once set water on fire," she said. "Don't ask how. Julia still brings it up at family dinners." "That's impressive." "Scientifically fascinating, actually." "It was mortifying. The fire department came, my mother didn't let me near the stove for 6 months. His laugh was unguarded, beautiful. "I'd pay money to see you attempt cooking. You already paid $100,000 to see me eat. Cooking might require a second mortgage." "Worth it." The word hung between them, heavy with meaning. Russell's hand tightened on hers. His gaze dropped to her mouth, and the air thickened with tension. "Allison." His voice was rough. "I want to kiss you. Have wanted to since that night in the bar, but this time I want to do it right. Not rushed, not interrupted, not—" She leaned forward, closing the distance. "Then kiss me." He stood, moved around the table in 2 strides. His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. The moment stretched, anticipation building until it was almost unbearable. His eyes searched hers, asking permission. She nodded, barely breathing. Russell's mouth descended toward hers, so close she could feel his breath. His phone erupted with the shrill urgency of an emergency ringtone. They froze. He closed his eyes, jaw clenching. "You've got to be kidding me." "Answer it," Allison managed. Though she wanted to throw the phone into the ocean, he pulled it out, expression darkening as he read the screen. "Tokyo office. The merger, damn it. I have to take this." "I know." He pressed his forehead to hers briefly. "This isn't over." "I know that too." He stepped away, answered with clipped professionalism. Allison watched him pace by the window, gesturing sharply, his earlier softness replaced by CEO authority. When he returned, he looked genuinely miserable. "I have to go. Conference call in 20 minutes and I need my laptop." "It's fine." It wasn't fine. It was frustrating and disappointing and— "No, it's not." He pulled her to her feet, hands on her waist. "But I promise you, Allison Ramsey, when I finally kiss you properly, nothing, not work, not phones, not the apocalypse, will interrupt us." Despite her disappointment, she smiled. "That's quite a promise." "I don't make promises I can't keep." He pressed one quick, chaste kiss to her forehead. "Soon, I swear." The drive back was quiet, charged with unfinished business. When they reached her apartment, Russell walked her to the door. "Thank you," he said, "for the best almost date I've ever had." "Almost?" Next time counts as the real one, when I actually get to kiss you." After he left, Allison leaned against her door, smiling despite the frustration. Marina called immediately. "Details, now. How do you even know I'm home?" Julia texted. "She's camped outside your building, very subtle." Allison groaned. "I'm surrounded by spies. Spies who love you. Now talk." And despite everything, the interruption, the frustration, the waiting, Allison couldn't stop smiling as she recounted every detail of the evening. Because Russell was right. It wasn't over. It was just beginning. The following week brought Grant Holloway into Allison's life, literally. The attorney from Morrison & Associates had moved to the city 3 months ago and was handling the legal side of a company they were acquiring. He was charming, attractive, and, as Marina immediately pointed out, clearly interested. "He's been asking about you," Marina said, watching Grant through the conference room glass. "Wanted to know if you were single, what you like to do for fun, your favorite restaurants." "That's creepy." "That's interested, and he's cute. Tall, good hair, probably doesn't work 18-hour days like certain CEOs we know." Allison glanced at Grant, who caught her looking and smiled. He was handsome in a conventional way. Sandy hair, friendly face, easy smile. Nothing like Russell's sharp edges and devastating intensity. "Not interested," she said. "Because of Russell?" "Because I'm focusing on work." Marina snorted. "Sure you are. That's why you've been checking your phone every 5 minutes to see if he's texted." Allison had no defense for that. Russell had been in back-to-back meetings all week, and their only communication had been brief professional emails about the acquisition. She missed him, which was ridiculous, considering they weren't even technically dating. At lunch, Grant approached her table in the cafeteria. "Mind if I join you?" he asked. "I'm still learning my way around, and eating alone gets old." She couldn't refuse without being rude. Sure. He was pleasant company. Funny, intelligent, easy to talk to. When he mentioned struggling to find good restaurants in the area, Allison found herself recommending a few places. "Maybe you could show me sometime," Grant suggested. "I'd appreciate a local's perspective. Just as colleagues," he added quickly. "Professional networking." It seemed harmless. "Sure, I usually go to Giovanni's on Thursdays." "This Thursday? Why not?" What Allison didn't notice was Russell standing near the elevators, watching the entire exchange with an expression that made Ricardo, who'd been mid-sentence, stop talking entirely. Boss? You okay?" Russell's jaw was clenched so tight it was a miracle his teeth didn't crack. "Who's that?" Ricardo followed his gaze. "Grant Holloway, attorney from Morrison & Associates, working on the Pearson acquisition." "Why?" "No reason." Russell turned sharply toward his office. "Cancel my 3 o'clock. But that's the board. Cancel it." Thursday arrived with Allison feeling guilty about something she couldn't quite name. It was just lunch. Professional networking, nothing wrong with that. Except she hadn't mentioned it to Russell, which meant some part of her knew it wasn't entirely innocent. Giovanni's was crowded with the lunch rush. Grant was already there, waving from a corner booth. The meal was pleasant. Good food, easy conversation. He was telling a funny story about a disastrous deposition when Allison felt the back of her neck prickle. She looked up. Russell stood near the entrance, flanked by Ricardo, both in business suits. His eyes locked on hers with laser focus. The expression on his face was carefully neutral, but she knew him well enough now to recognize the tension in his shoulders, the tight set of his jaw. He was furious. Ricardo spotted them, said something to Russell that she couldn't hear. Russell's response was clipped. Then, impossibly, they walked directly to a table 3 booths away. Grant hadn't noticed. He continued talking, oblivious to the temperature in the restaurant dropping several degrees. Allison couldn't focus, couldn't eat. Russell sat with his back to her, but she could feel his anger radiating across the space. When the waiter came to their table, Russell's voice carried just enough for her to hear his order. The same dish she always got. It was deliberate. A message. Grant finally noticed her distraction. "Everything okay?" "Fine. Just thought I saw someone from work." "Well, it's a popular spot for the business crowd." He smiled. "I'm glad you recommended it. And I'm glad you agreed to lunch. I've been hoping to get to know you better." The words were innocent enough, but the implication wasn't. Before Allison could respond, Russell stood abruptly. He dropped cash on his table, far too much, and strode toward the exit. As he passed their booth, His eyes met hers briefly. The look he gave her was scalding. Then he was gone. Ricardo paused at their table, smiled apologetically at Grant, then leaned close to Allison's ear. "He saw you two laughing from the office window. Just thought you should know." Then he too disappeared. Grant frowned. "Friends of yours?" "Colleagues." Allison's stomach churned with guilt. "I should get back to the office, early meeting." "Of course, thanks for lunch. We should do this again." "Maybe." She grabbed her purse, suddenly desperate to leave. Back at the office, Marina intercepted her. "What did you do?" "What do you mean?" "Russell just walked past my desk, looking like he wanted to set something on fire. Then asked me, very casually, how your lunch was." Marina's eyes widened. "Oh my God. You had lunch with Grant, didn't you? And Russell found out." "It was just lunch, professional networking." "Yeah, and I'm the Queen of England." Marina shook her head. "You need to talk to him, now, before he does something stupid." Allison's phone buzzed. "Russell. My office. Now." Her heart hammered. "Wish me luck. You're going to need it," Marina muttered. The walk to Russell's office felt like a death march. "Mrs." Morrison waved her through without a word, but her expression was sympathetic. Russell stood by the window, hands in his pockets, radiating tension. When she closed the door, he didn't turn around. "Professional networking," he said flatly. "That's what you're calling it. Russell, do you have any idea how it felt? Watching you laugh with him through my office window, seeing you at lunch, smiling at him the way you smile at me. It wasn't like that." He turned then, and the raw emotion in his eyes stole her breath. "Then what was it like, Allison? Because from where I stood, it looked like a date. And I've been losing my mind all week, trying to find 5 minutes to see you, only to discover you have plenty of time for some attorney who's been asking about you since day one. You're jealous." "Of course I'm jealous." His voice rose. "I'm insanely, irrationally jealous of any man who gets to spend time with you when I can't. When I want—" He stopped, ran a hand through his hair. "This is exactly why I don't do relationships. I turn into someone I don't recognize." The confession hung between them, raw and honest. Allison crossed the room slowly. "What do you want, Russell?" His eyes blazed. "You, I want you, all of you. Not stolen moments or interrupted dinners or pretending this is just professional. I want you to be mine." "Then stop talking," she whispered, "and kiss me already." For a heartbeat, Russell didn't move. Then his control shattered completely. He crossed the space between them in 2 strides, hands cupping her face as his mouth crashed against hers. This wasn't the tentative kiss from the bar hallway. This was desperate, demanding. Weeks of restrained desire finally unleashed. His fingers tangled in her hair, angling her head as he deepened the kiss. She gasped, and he took advantage, tasting her thoroughly. Allison's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer. He walked her backward until her spine hit the door, his body pressed against hers. One hand slid down her side, settling on her waist, thumb stroking the curve of her hip through her dress. The other cradled her jaw with surprising gentleness, given the intensity of the kiss. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Russell rested his forehead against hers. "That," he murmured, voice rough, "was worth waiting for." "You're telling me?" Her hands were still fisted in his shirt. "Though your timing is terrible, we're in your office. I locked the door. You planned this? The kiss? No. Locking the door the moment you walked in because I didn't trust myself not to do exactly this." "Absolutely." He pulled back enough to look at her, eyes still dark with desire. "I'm sorry. For showing up at lunch. For acting like a jealous idiot. For—" She kissed him again, softer this time. "Stop apologizing." It was kind of hot. His laugh was low, pleased. "Was it?" "Ridiculously hot. Though next time, maybe just tell me you're jealous instead of stalking me to restaurants." "I wasn't stalking. I was strategically observing." "That's literally the definition of stalking, Russell. Details." His thumb traced her lower lip and she shivered. "For the record, you're not having lunch with him again." "Possessive." "Absolutely. You have a problem with that?" She should. Should tell him he didn't get to dictate who she had lunch with, but the way he was looking at her, like she was the only thing that mattered in the world, made rational thought difficult. "No problem," she admitted, "as long as you stop canceling our plans for work emergencies." "Deal." He kissed her again, slow and thorough, taking his time exploring her mouth like he had all the time in the world. When he finally pulled back, they were both flushed and breathing hard. "We need to talk about this, about us." "I know." He led her to the couch in his office, keeping her hand in his like he was afraid she'd disappear. "The company has a policy against relationships between supervisors and subordinates." Her heart sank. "So this is complicated, but not impossible." He squeezed her hand. "I've been thinking about it. A lot. The policy is designed to prevent abuse of power and favoritism. But you don't report to me directly, and I'd never use my position to influence your career. People will still talk. They're already talking. I paid $100,000 for dinner with you. I looked ready to commit murder during the bidding. The cat's out of the bag. So what do you suggest? We date, quietly at first. Give it a few months, see if this works. Then, if it does, I'll talk to the board about revising the policy. Make it about disclosure rather than prohibition." He turned to face her fully. "But I need to know you're all in, that you want this as much as I do." Allison studied him, this powerful, confident man who'd been reduced to jealous stalking over lunch, who kissed her like she was air and he was drowning, who looked at her with such open vulnerability it made her chest ache. "I'm in," she said. "Completely." His smile was devastating. "Good. Because I'm going to kiss you a lot more, and it would be awkward if you weren't on board with that plan." "How much more?" "Constantly. Obsessively. Every chance I get." He demonstrated by pressing his lips to hers again, soft and sweet this time. "Starting now." The kiss deepened naturally, heat building between them. Russell's hands roamed, respectfully, but with clear intent. When they finally separated, his hair was mussed from her fingers, his tie askew, and Allison felt thoroughly kissed. "We should stop," she said, not meaning it at all, "and probably." He kissed her neck and she shivered. "Though we could also lock the door more securely and—" Someone knocked. They sprang apart like teenagers caught by parents. Russell smoothed his tie, cleared his throat. "Come in." Mrs. Morrison entered, took one look at them. Allison's flushed face, Russell's mussed hair, the general air of guilt, and smiled knowingly. "Your 4 o'clock is here, Mr. Thornton. Shall I tell them you need a few more minutes?" "Yes, thank you, Celia." After she left, Allison buried her face in her hands. She knows. She's known since the gala, possibly before. Russell pulled her hands away, kissed her knuckles. "Dinner tonight? My place? I'll cook." "You cook?" "No, but I'll order takeout and pretend I cooked." "Will that work?" She laughed, the sound free and happy. "That works perfectly. 7 o'clock, and Allison." His expression turned serious. "We're doing this. Really doing this, you and me." "I know." She kissed him once more, quick and sweet. "Now let me leave before your 4 o'clock gets suspicious." As she slipped out of his office, trying to look professional despite her thoroughly kissed appearance, Marina caught her eye from across the floor. Her friend mouthed, "Finally." Allison grinned, ducked into her office, and counted down the hours until 7 o'clock. Dating Russell Thornton in secret was, Allison discovered, both thrilling and utterly ridiculous. They were terrible at it. The first incident happened 3 days into their relationship. Russell, forgetting they were in the office, walked up behind Allison during a meeting and placed his hand on the small of her back, a casual, intimate gesture that made everyone in the room stare. "Just reaching for the projector remote," he said smoothly, grabbing said remote from the table beside her. Marina, sitting across the conference table, mouthed, "Smooth." The second incident was worse. Allison had been in Russell's office reviewing contracts when he'd kissed her, thoroughly, against his desk. They'd gotten so caught up they hadn't heard Ricardo enter. "Oh, for the love of my eyes!" Ricardo had backed out immediately, hands over his face. "Lock the door, you animals." Now, 2 weeks later, they'd established rules. No touching in public, no lingering looks in meetings, and absolutely no closed-door sessions lasting longer than 30 minutes. They broke every single rule. "This is insane," Allison said, lying on Russell's couch in his penthouse apartment. They'd just finished dinner, actual homemade pasta, because Russell had surprised her by actually knowing how to cook. "We can't keep our hands off each other for 5 minutes in the office." Russell, stretched out beside her with her feet in his lap, massaged her arches absently. I'm aware. Ricardo's threatened to install a bell on my office door like I'm a cat. Maybe we should just tell people. His hands stilled. Are you sure? Once we do, there's no taking it back. People will talk, make assumptions about your promotions, your cases. Let them talk. She sat up, turning to face him. I'm tired of pretending. I want to hold your hand in public. I want to have lunch together without worrying who sees. I want... He kissed her, cutting off the words. When he pulled back, his expression was tender. Okay, we'll tell them. But on our terms, when we're ready. When's that? Soon. He tucked her hair behind her ear. I need to talk to the board first. Make sure changing the policy won't cause issues for you professionally. You'd do that? I'd do anything for you. The words were simple, sincere. You're it for me, Alison. I know it's fast and probably insane, but you're it. Her heart stuttered. Russell. His phone rang. They both stared at it. Don't you dare, she warned. He glanced at the screen, winced. It's Tokyo. The merger is always an emergency. Always one more call, one more crisis. She wasn't angry, just resigned. This was who he was. Driven, dedicated, unable to let go of work, even for an evening. Something shifted in his expression. He declined the call, powered off his phone completely and tossed it aside. What are you doing? She asked, shocked. Choosing you. He pulled her into his lap, arms around her waist. Work will always be there. Emergencies will always happen. But you're right here, right now, and I'm done letting anything interrupt us. But Tokyo can wait until morning. Ricardo can handle it. The world won't end if I'm unavailable for one night. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, the tip of her nose. I'm tired of phones and interruptions and work stealing our time. Tonight you have my complete undivided attention. Alison's eyes stung with unexpected emotion. This man, this powerful CEO who ran a global empire, had just turned off his phone for her. I love you, she blurted, then froze. Too soon. Way too soon. They'd only been dating 2 weeks. I love you too. Russell's smile was blindingly happy. Have since you kissed me in that hallway, probably. Took me a while to figure it out, but yeah, I'm completely gone for you. She kissed him then, pouring everything into it. Relief, joy, love. He responded with equal intensity, hands sliding into her hair, mouth moving against hers with practiced expertise. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Russell rested his forehead against hers. Stay tonight, he murmured. Just sleep. I want to wake up with you. Okay. They moved to his bedroom, the enormous space dominated by a bed that looked like it could sleep 6. Russell lent her a t-shirt, his Harvard Business School one that hung to her knees. They brushed their teeth side by side like an old married couple, and the domesticity of it made Alison's chest ache with happiness. In bed, he pulled her against his chest, one arm around her waist, the other cradling her head. She fit perfectly against him, like they'd been designed for this. Alison? His voice was drowsy. Thank you. For what? For kissing me that night. For being brave enough for both of us. For making me remember there's more to life than quarterly reports and board meetings. She smiled against his chest. You're welcome. Within minutes, his breathing evened out. Alison lay awake a bit longer, marveling at how her life had transformed. 2 months ago, she'd been dating a man who couldn't remember her coffee order. Now she was in love with someone who'd turned off his phone, his lifeline to his empire, just to spend uninterrupted time with her. Yeah, she was keeping this one. Russell's perspective. Russell woke at dawn, disoriented until he felt the warm weight against his chest. Alison curled into him, still sleeping peacefully. His phone, still powered off from last night, sat on the nightstand. For the first time in years, he felt no urge to check it. This, he thought, watching the early morning light play across Alison's face, this is what I've been missing. He'd built an empire but forgotten to build a life. Until her. He pressed a soft kiss to her hair, careful not to wake her, and allowed himself to simply exist in the moment. No meetings, no emergencies, no demands on his attention. Just them. Just this. Just perfect. The following Monday, the entire office knew something was different. Russell Thornton, notoriously early and perpetually caffeine-deprived, arrived at 9:30 with a Starbucks cup and a smile that could power the eastern seaboard. He hummed, actually hummed, in the elevator. Mrs. Morrison nearly dropped her tablet. "Good morning, Celia," he said cheerfully. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" She stared. "Are you feeling well, Mr. Thornton?" Never better. Alison arrived moments later, also suspiciously cheerful, also carrying Starbucks. The cups matched. Marina noticed immediately because Marina noticed everything. "Spill," she demanded, cornering Alison at her desk. "And I mean everything. You're glowing. You spent the weekend with him, didn't you?" "I'm not glowing. You're literally luminescent. I need sunglasses to look at you." Marina crossed her arms. "I'm your best friend. I demand details." "We had dinner. It was nice." "Nice? You had dinner and it was nice? That's like saying the Grand Canyon is a decent hole in the ground." Marina leaned closer. "Did you—" "No, we just slept, literally slept." "And?" "And it was perfect." Alison couldn't suppress her smile. He turned off his phone. "All night. For me." Marina's expression softened. "Oh, honey, you're so gone for him. Completely." The problem with being happy, Alison discovered, was that happiness made you stupid, or at least careless. She and Russell managed approximately 4 hours of professional distance before everything fell apart. It started innocently enough. Alison needed Russell's signature on a contract. She went to his office, knocked, entered. He looked up from his desk, smiled that private smile meant only for her, and she forgot they were supposed to be professional. She kissed him. Right there in his office at 11:30 on a Monday morning, with the door open and half the executive floor within viewing distance. Russell responded instantly, pulling her closer, hand in her hair, thoroughly kissing her back. Then someone cleared their throat. They sprang apart. Grant Holloway stood in the doorway, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. I needed a signature on the Morrison contract," Grant managed, "but I can come back or never. Never works too." He fled. Alison covered her face with her hands. "Oh my God." "Well?" Russell adjusted his tie, completely unruffled. "That's one way to make our relationship public. This isn't funny. It's a little funny." He pulled her hands away from her face, kissed her forehead. "Breathe. It's fine." "Fine? Grant just caught us kissing. He's going to tell everyone." "Good." Russell's smile was wicked. "Saves me the announcement." As predicted, within an hour the entire office knew. Marina sent 14 texts, all in caps. Julia called screaming. Ricardo appeared at Alison's office with champagne. "Finally," he declared. "Do you know how exhausting it's been watching you two dance around each other? I was this close to locking you in a closet." "Very professional, Ricardo." "Hey, I'm CFO, not HR. Different rules." He poured champagne into coffee mugs. "Congratulations, you've made Russell almost bearable. That's worth celebrating." By end of day, Alison had received 17 emails. Some congratulatory, some concerned about policy violations. One from accounting asking if she'd given Russell insider information about the auction to make him bid so high. She was drafting responses when her phone rang. "Russell, come to my office." Is that wise, given the morning's disaster? Everyone knows now. Might as well enjoy the benefits. His voice dropped. "Please?" She found him standing by the window, hands in pockets, looking vulnerable in a way that made her chest ache. "I talked to the board," he said. "Proposed changes to the relationship policy. They approved it unanimously, effective immediately. As long as we disclose and there's no direct reporting relationship, we're clear." Relief flooded through her. "Really? Really?" He turned, opened his arms. "Come here." She went, letting him hold her. "People are going to talk. Let them." He kissed the top of her head. "I'm done hiding how I feel about you. Done pretending you're not the best thing that's ever happened to me. Even if it causes problems? You're not a problem, Alison. You're the solution." He pulled back to look at her. "To every question I didn't know I was asking, every empty space I didn't realize existed, you're it." She kissed him then, soft and sweet, not caring who might see through the glass walls. Mrs. Morrison walked past, saw them, and smiled. She didn't interrupt. Marina texted, "I can see you from my desk. Get a room." Julia sent 17 heart emojis. Ricardo walked by, knocked on the glass, and gave them a thumbs up. And Alison, wrapped in Russell's arms, while the entire office watched. Decided she didn't care what anyone thought. This, him, them, was worth every awkward conversation, every knowing look, every piece of gossip. Because somewhere between a drunken kiss and $100,000 dinner, she'd found something real, something lasting, something worth fighting for. "I love you," she whispered. Russell's smile was brilliant. "I love you too, now and always." The office might be watching, but neither of them cared anymore. They were done hiding, done pretending, done being anything but exactly what they were, completely, irrevocably, wonderfully in love. 3 months into their relationship, Russell suggested a weekend at his beach house. Away from work, phones, people who know us, just us. Alison agreed immediately. They'd been taking things slow. Dates, kisses that left them breathless, nights spent talking until dawn. But the tension had been building, the wanting growing stronger with each touch. The house was stunning, perched on cliffs overlooking the ocean, all glass and modern lines, with the sound of waves constant and soothing. "It's beautiful," Alison breathed, stepping onto the deck. Russell came up behind her, arms around her waist, chin on her shoulder. "I bought it thinking I'd use it to decompress from work. Came here maybe twice in 3 years. And now? Now I want to fill it with memories. With you." He kissed her neck, and she shivered. "With us." They spent the day walking the beach, cooking together. Russell actually could cook, it turned out, when he wasn't pretending. He made her laugh with stories about disastrous board meetings. She told him about Julia's latest dramatic crisis, involving a wedding invitation and the wrong shade of pink. As evening fell, they sat on the deck watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. Russell held her hand, thumb tracing patterns on her skin. "I've been thinking," he said quietly, "about us, about how fast this happened and how right it feels anyway. Me too." He turned to face her, expression serious. "I know we haven't been together long, but I can't imagine my life without you anymore. Don't want to imagine it." Alison's heart raced. "Russell, I'm not proposing. Not yet." His smile was gentle. "But I am saying that this is it for me. You're it. However long you need, whatever pace you want, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." She kissed him, pouring everything into it. Love, trust, desire. When they finally broke apart, his eyes were dark with want. "Take me to bed," she whispered. His breath caught. "Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything." He stood, pulled her up, led her inside to the master bedroom. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the ocean, moonlight streaming across the bed. He turned to face her, cupping her face with both hands. "You're so beautiful," he murmured. "I want to take my time with you, show you exactly how much I love you." He kissed her slowly, thoroughly, hands moving to the zipper of her dress. She trembled as the fabric fell away, suddenly vulnerable. But Russell's eyes held nothing but reverence as he looked at her. "Perfect," he breathed. "You're absolutely perfect." His shirt came off next, revealing the strong chest she'd felt but never seen. Her hands explored tentatively, marveling at the warmth of his skin, the steady beat of his heart under her palm. They moved to the bed, Russell settling beside her, taking his time. Each kiss was worship, each touch deliberate. His hands learned every curve, every sensitive spot, while he whispered how much he wanted her, loved her, needed her. When she reached for his belt, nervous and eager, he covered her hands with his. "We don't have to rush," he said softly. "We have all night, all weekend, forever, if you'll have me." "I'll have you," she whispered. "Now and always." What followed was tender and intense, awkward and perfect all at once. Russell was gentle, patient, making sure she was with him every moment. When he finally moved inside her, they both gasped at the connection, the intimacy beyond anything physical. "I love you," he breathed against her mouth, moving slowly, hands cradling her face like she was precious. "God, Alison, I love you so much." She answered with her body, her kiss, her whispered words between gasps. The build was slow, deliberate, both of them savoring every sensation. When she finally shattered, he followed moments later, her name a prayer on his lips. After, wrapped in his arms with the sound of waves outside, Alison felt tears slip down her cheeks. "Hey," Russell wiped them gently. "What's wrong?" Nothing's wrong. She smiled through the tears. Everything's perfect. You're perfect. This is perfect. He kissed her forehead, pulled her closer. We're perfect. Together. She fell asleep on his chest, his heartbeat steady beneath her ear, feeling more complete than she'd ever thought possible. In the morning, she woke to Russell watching her, expression soft with love. Good morning, beautiful. She stretched, gloriously naked and utterly unashamed. Good morning yourself. He kissed her, slow and deep. Round two. She laughed, pulled him closer. Definitely round two. Outside, the ocean crashed against rocks. Inside, they created their own perfect world, one kiss at a time. 6 months later, Russell proposed in the kitchen of their shared apartment. They'd moved in together 3 months prior, combining his modern minimalism with her comfortable chaos in a way that somehow worked perfectly. That evening, they were cooking together, or rather, Alison was chopping vegetables, while Russell handled anything involving actual heat. Do you remember when you told Julia you set water on fire? He asked, stirring sauce. Don't remind me, I still maintain that was the stove's fault. The stove's fault. Right. He turned off the burner, moved the pan aside, then dropped to one knee right there between the refrigerator and the counter. Alison's knife clattered to the cutting board. Russell, I had this whole speech planned, he said, pulling a velvet box from his pocket. About how you changed my life, made me remember there's more than work, taught me what love actually means. But standing here in our kitchen, watching you attempt to cook without causing property damage, he grinned. I realized I don't need fancy words. I just need you forever. Will you marry me? The ring was stunning, a sapphire surrounded by diamonds, elegant and unique, just like him to avoid the traditional. Yes, she pulled him up, kissing him hard. Yes, yes, absolutely yes. He slid the ring on her finger, kissed her until they both forgot about dinner entirely, then grinned against her mouth. I love you. I love you too. Even though you proposed in our kitchen. You were expecting the Eiffel Tower? Maybe something more than between the fridge and the counter, but this is us. Casual, real. Perfect. He kissed her again. Besides, I'm saving the Eiffel Tower for our honeymoon. We're going to Paris. We're going wherever you want. I have a lifetime of neglected vacation days to use. They married 3 months later, in a small ceremony, just family, close friends, and the inevitable office contingent who'd been invested in their relationship since the auction. Marina cried through the entire ceremony. Julia recorded everything for social media. Ricardo gave a toast that was equal parts touching and mortifying. Piz. Morrison caught the bouquet, which made everyone laugh. Russell's vows made Alison cry. You kissed me in a hallway when you were drunk and brave, and I've been falling ever since. You challenged me, changed me, made me better. You're my best friend, my favorite person, my everything. I promise to love you through every deadline, every disaster, and every attempt at cooking. Forever. Her vows were shorter, but just as heartfelt. You turned off your phone for me. That's when I knew. Everything else, the grand gestures, the $100,000 dinners, the jealous stalking, that was just confirmation. You're worth every complication, every awkward office moment, every knowing look from Marina. I love you. Now and always. They honeymooned in Paris for 2 weeks, Russell keeping his promise to be completely unplugged from work. They walked the city hand in hand, kissed under the Eiffel Tower, spent lazy mornings in bed making love and lazy afternoons exploring museums. A year into their marriage, on a quiet Sunday morning, Alison gave him a present. Russell opened it confused, pulling out a tiny bodysuit that read, Future Attorney or CEO in Training. He stared at it, looked at her, looked back at the bodysuit. You're... She nodded, smiling through sudden tears. About 8 weeks. The box fell from his hands. He crossed to her in 2 strides, lifting her off her feet, spinning her around the kitchen. Their kitchen, where everything important seemed to happen. When he set her down, his eyes were bright with unshed tears. We're having a baby. We're having a baby. He kissed her everywhere, her forehead, her cheeks, her nose, her mouth, laughing and crying simultaneously. I love you. God, Alison, I love you so much. I love you too. He dropped to his knees, pressed his forehead against her still flat stomach. Hey, kid, your mom kissed me in a bar once when she was drunk, and now here we are. Best decision she ever made. He looked up at Alison. Best thing that ever happened to me. Later, wrapped together on the couch, his hand protectively on her stomach, Alison reflected on how drastically her life had changed. One drunken kiss, one reckless moment, one man who'd been everything she didn't know she needed. "What are you thinking about?" Russell asked. "That I should thank Trevor. Your ex, why?" "Because if he hadn't cheated, I wouldn't have gone to that bar, wouldn't have kissed you, wouldn't have any of this." Russell laughed. "Then I'll send him a fruit basket. Most expensive thank you gift in history." "You're ridiculous. You love me anyway." "I really do." She kissed him softly. "I really, really do." Outside, the city buzzed with life. Inside, they had everything they needed. Each other, their growing family, and a love that had started with tequila and audacity and transformed into something lasting and true. Russell pulled her closer, kissed her temple, and whispered, "Thank you for being brave enough for both of us, for changing my life, for being mine. Always yours," Alison promised. "Now and forever." And she meant every word. Leave your comment and share this story with someone special. It truly helps us keep bringing new stories to you. And if you want to follow every chapter of this emotional journey, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Your support makes all the difference.